20,000 are on this mountainside alone. The children are in most danger from the bitter cold and lack of food. Families here feel completely abandoned, in danger of starving to death. Their mothers scavenge for water, which is in such short supply, people are forced to suck the snow to stay alive. The Kurdish refugees are being literally pushed back towards Iraq by Turkish soldiers. Any Kurds who try to get past the soldiers are hunted down. This man was caught and knocked unconscious. Every day, more illness, more disease. This man lost his left arm because of gangrene. Now part of his right arm has also been amputated. This woman is covered in napalm burns, attacked by the Iraqis as she fled. Kurdish doctors say they must have medicines or they won't survive.
All of us will die.
The dead remain uncounted. Every morning they carry out those who didn't make it through the night. This 80-year-old man walked for 9 days with no food. He made it to the border only to die of exhaustion.
If food is not brought in here in a matter of days, food and tents and blankets are the priority, particularly tents and blankets. If that doesn't arrive within a matter of days, now you're going to have deaths in the thousands, I believe.
2 RAF Hercules planes tried to deliver food and medicines today, but severe weather forced them to turn back to their base in southern Turkey. They'll try again tomorrow.
We spent our first night just as the refugees did, high in the mountains in this small settlement. We slept under plastic sheeting, and without the specialist sleeping bags, conditions would have been excruciating. The people say what they really need is practical aid and the ability to come down from these mountains to lower, warmer ground. So far, the only aid that's arrived here are these MREs, meals ready to eat, dropped from the sky by American C-130s. In this pack, corned beef. In this pack, chocolate. But what the people really need is help, practical help, now.
The freezing morning saw the departure of several families heading on for Chukurja. Many of the children so tired and so cold they couldn't face another day of walking. During the night, a baby had been born a few yards away from where we had slept. Its parents had given no thought to giving their first son a name. They were too worried about whether they'd survive as a family. But while the day brought new life, there was also the sound of death in the air. In this tent, the father of 12 children had just died. He was 44 years old. He died from hypothermia after falling sick on a long walk to get this far. A doctor could have saved him. His family couldn't. Half an hour later, 2 young men set out to bury their father.
The Turkish government is allowing some 20,000 Kurds down from the mountains into a transit camp inside Turkey itself. On the Turkish border, up to 1,000 refugees are said to be dying every day. At least 400,000 are living in appalling conditions. Our correspondent, Jeremy Bowen, has been to camps at Chukurja and Zumlu along the Turkey-Iraq border.
At first light, the bodies of the children who died in the night are brought down from the mountain at Chukurja. Hundreds have been killed by cold, hunger, and diseases caused by the filth around them, despite the relief effort. Some are taken to this makeshift mortuary in the local mosque. A family who could find no other shelter sleeps a few feet from the bodies. Outside, the dead are left by their relatives. They have no hope of giving their children and grandchildren a decent funeral, so they deposit them at the local mosque and hope that someone else will. Chukurja is a desperate place, but it's one of the more accessible camps. In the mornings, refugees wait for doctors and food to arrive. They beg Turkish soldiers to let them take the sickest people down to the village. The soldiers, though, believe some refugees are faking illness to get off the mountain and are hard to persuade. Some people are desperate enough to try to break through the cordon. The young Turkish conscripts are under orders to stop them. Fission process which prevents starvation at a price.
The ridge where the parachutes landed is in Iraqi territory. They say that 10 people were killed yesterday trying to get packages which had landed in minefields.
Through a tannoy, Turkish soldiers told the refugees to stay out of the minefields. They ignored the warnings. There's no real medical care at Azumlo. Only a few handfuls of drugs for perhaps 10,000 people. Isha Namet is 22. She lies in a hut with her 6 surviving children. She hasn't been able to stand since she gave birth to twin boys 10 days ago. She has no medicine and no doctor, but the hut has electricity. There's a television, and they watch the world they think has abandoned them. In the cemetery, her father is digging a grave for one of Isha Namet's babies. He buried the other yesterday. The old man hadn't heard about international promises of aid. He said they'd all been left to die. Jeremy Bowen, BBC News, at Umlozo camp on the Turkey-Iraq border.
The United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees has arrived in western Iran to inspect the situation there. 6 new camps are being set up on the Iranian border to house the hundreds of thousands of Kurds needing shelter. From the border between Iran and Iraq, this report from Charles Wheeler.
After a cold, wet, sleepless night at the side of a stony mountain road, a mother tries to toast her baby. She's been walking for more than a week, and she's afraid her child will die before she reaches warmth and shelter. How far that is, how many more days they'll have to travel, none of these people know. They just keep going as best and as quickly as they can. The weather up here changes from minute to minute. Constant spring showers mean that clothes and blankets won't dry out before nightfall, and it's at night that so many have died. The road from Kurdish Iraq to Kurdish Iran twists and turns through the mountains at 6,000 feet above sea level. It's as though hundreds of thousands of people were inching their way along a ledge, with a cliff face on one side and a sheer drop on the other. And getting food and blankets to those in the queue is a logistical nightmare. There is barely room on the road for a relief vehicle to pass. So, to extend the relief effort to where the need is greater, the Iranian Air Force is now using Chinook helicopters. But in this region, bad weather has cut planned flights by more than half. And deliveries, averaging 30 tons a day, here of bread and rice, simply don't do more than scratch the surface of the need. This flight ended at the military post on the border with Iran. Thousands are forced to wait here because congestion has blocked the road into Iran. According to the military governor of this region, 1 million Kurds have already crossed into Iran, and another 500,000 are clogging the roads behind me. That queue, we're told, stretches for 40 miles. This is a whole people on the move. Nobody knows the extent of this human tragedy. All one can say is that what these people are suffering, the Kurds, is infinitely greater than what happened to the Kuwaitis.
Mr. George Bush is responsible for all this. He could destroy Saddam and his army, but he don't try. All this because he don't want Kurdish and Shia to be leader in Iraq, to run Iraq. Why did he do that? He could destroy the army. We could live in peace. The war is finished. He destroyed Kuwait. Kuwait is 1 million. 1 million. He do this all war for 1 million. We are 5 million. Saddam Hussein bombing, bomba, helicopters destroyed us. I don't know. They saw this, but they don't know. Why? We are human.